Hi everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Hold on. Antics will not be tolerated. I think pretty much all of y'all know me. I'm Laura. I'm the co-coordinator of Pen to Paper with at CTD, and I think this is probably the biggest turnout we've ever had for this so far, so that's kind of exciting. We have 6 pieces for y'all today. I think we're covering fiction and nonfiction. So, does anybody want to go first? I'll go first if nobody wants to. You want to go first?
No.
Yeah.
Come on, Juan. Step up.
Okay. Alright, I don't mind going first and breaking the ice. What I'm going to read is from one of our honorable mentions in fiction. It's called Codename Miracle Worker by Austin-based author Errol Rivera. He was Austin-based when he entered the contest. Now he's in Dublin. But we, took it anyway. And kind of the setup of this excerpt is that Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan are actually secret government agents carrying out the dirty work of the federal government. So a little piece of historical fiction today. And y'all let me know if you can't hear me or anything. Okay. 5 days after receiving the case, Helen and Anne would board the 97 train departing for Connecticut. The first objective in their case was to make contact with an informant, and in doing so, gain the ground from which to begin. Their contact was an elderly man of some remarkable experience, who stayed well apprised of the intelligence community and its movements, and whom Anne referred to as the brilliant coot. Their meeting place was the same every time, a tavern that shall remain unnamed in a small town undisclosed. The tavern was chosen for both its proximity to their contacts and a quality unique to the area. It was one of a few local taverns equipped with running water, which flowed through exposed pipes that lined the inner walls of the establishment. Using her well-trained skills, Helen would use the pipes to conduct her business with the necessary discretion. Anne dressed as a barmaid, her least favorite disguise, and so kept a clandestine watch over Helen and the other patrons. In her pocket were 2 sticks of incense, one of frankincense and the other of myrrh. When the interview was concluded, Anne would light the frankincense if it was safe for Helen to leave. The myrrh signaled danger. As usual, Helen took tea alone at a corner in the table, discreetly placed a hand on one of the pipes and waited. It wasn't long before the contact arrived. He was a man in his early 60s, and though he walked with a cane, his stride carried the curiosity and enthusiasm of a young boy. His hair was a snow-white untamed briar patch, which was stark contrast to his thick, well-groomed mustache. The suit he wore was as white as his hair, yet it seemed to be far better at avoiding dirt and dust. He observed the room carefully as he entered it, and seemed to find some kind of humor in everything before him. Upon spotting Helen, the contact made his way to the far side of an adjacent wall and leaned on one of the exposed pipes across the room from the girl who awaited him.
That's not her now, though.
That wasn't part of the story. As he spoke, the vibrations of his voice were carried through the plumbing all the way to Helen's fingertips. With practice, she had learned to interpret the vibrations, making the words of her contact as clear as any bell. "Hello, my dear," said the old man. Helen would tap to him rapidly on her teacup in Morse code, which the contact observed with a sharp eye. And in the story, this is spelled out letter by letter, but I'm just going to read it because I think that'll be a little easier. Helen says in Morse code, "Sam, thank you for coming. How was the lovely Miss Sullivan? She sends her love from the bar. You're here about the captain's debacle, Nasty business, that. Yes, what do you know of his enemies? He has more than a few currently running gangs. Any number of souls could be threatened by them. Anne kept a close watch on her charge. She couldn't help but marvel at the young girl who'd taken to conducting these interviews herself since she was only 14. Her eyes often leapt back and forth between Helen and Sam. She was also well aware of the two men in the corner who seemed to be doing the same. Games, says Helen. Yes, the good captain has been a busy man, infiltrating labor unions in Pennsylvania, interviewing retired spy masters in Chicago. Last I heard, he was investigating the Ku Klux Klan's connection to the Kentucky Seven. I heard you had a hand in that one, actually. It wasn't much. Don't be so modest, my dear. You've made quite an impact on the intelligence world. For a young lady whose skill is blending in, you certainly are getting noticed. I have other skills. I have no doubt, Sam chuckled to himself. Press the captain about his current projects, and you may yet find an enemy who requires him alive. It's the only reason these cutthroats would put a bullet in his hand instead of in his head. He's underground. What information did he provide you? A story and a bullet. Gotta work with what you have, Exactly. Then you'll want to speak to his right-hand man, Clive Murdoch, a war veteran and fellow spy master. A bit of an entitled ass if you ask me, but a good chap. Fiercely loyal to the captain, and works closely with him on his endeavors. He'll have the information you seek. Thank you, Mr. Clemens. When the interview concluded, Helen took her leave of Clemens, effortlessly navigating around tables and weaving between the swarming patrons as she made her way to the tavern's front door. She was only a few steps from exiting safely when Anne noticed that the two men in the corner, whom she had spied earlier, were suddenly gone. A scent, the roaring tide of myrrh, flashed across Helen's nose like a sudden sunrise. Anne had lit the danger signal, but rather than follow her, the scent seemed to grow farther away. Helen concluded that Anne must have left through the back door, but could not figure out as to why. Helen paused imperceptibly and continued toward her exit until she felt the daylight on her face. She turned and walked down the sidewalk, and with every step she took, she searched the wooden planks beneath her feet for a certain resonance, the synchronizing percussion of matching footsteps, a sign that she was being followed. Intrigue.